questions first and then the other one within the whole thing.
Mhm.
So it said the sociocultural and physiological lenses both argue that reading difficulty is often misattributed to the child. How do these lenses challenge deficit oriented explanations of literacy failure? So let's answer that one first. Okay,
Read
I
it
can
one
stop.
more time.
Oh, yes.
I'm looking at it. Sorry, I'm looking at it.
Let me pull it up real fast. Let me actually read it instead of just having my notes in front of me. Okay.
Okay.
How they villain challenge that hit right. Um, I think that they both challenge the idea that reading difficulty automatically means something is like wrong with the child. Um, like I think like they say it differently. Like they instead of like the lenses ask us to like look at like the conditions surrounding the learner instead of just like labeling them. Does that make sense? I think I said it wrong the first time.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm writing this down.
I kind of viewed this as the lenses don't view it as a deficit of the child. They view it as an opportunity for a different approach.
Yeah. Like for you to like look at like what is happening, not
Yes,
like
but
what
they
is.
also, on from our standpoint as the classroom teacher, I also felt that both of these lenses were a really good reminder that you cannot, like, tier tier one instruction cannot be a catch-all.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Exactly.
can, that was big for me. You, and I think that in any time in education, and that's I think what I really liked actually about these modules is because it's not just reading instruction. It is
Yeah.
education. And you are bringing in children from all different backgrounds, and we all know that. And we all know that that is like it is the biggest hurdle, the biggest challenge, and the biggest blessing all wrapped in one. But it's being honestly aware enough in your craft to know and to recognize points of where a child may need a little bit more, and where that child honestly needs to share a little bit more, because there's a lot of times that they bring the most to the table. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, in looking at it, I have, being at a STEM school, we are constantly asked how to build off of existing resources, basically looking at our students as being that as well. And so when I looked at both of these, especially the sociocultural one, it didn't, um, the role of a child's family and cultural background and all of that, to me, doesn't even doesn't cause alarm for like a challenge as much as it does an opportunity, even in the reading.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, yeah, and that was like the one thing that I felt was different, where of not viewing it as a deficit. Um,
So there was a quote. Let me see. Let me make sure I quote it right. So I was looking at the video with Denny Taylor, one of the videos, and she said we look at why children can't read instead of asking why a child, well, it's not a quote, but this is something she said. Instead of asking why a child is successful as a reader, what can be learned from the experience of that successful reader that we can use with the children who are not successful. And I was like, you know what? I really don't think about that all the time. I do ask questions like why is this student not getting it? Why is this student, and instead I do need to be using those children who are getting it as a tool to help the other students. And what did I say on here? So it's kind of like making those assumptions and I can't really make those assumptions because I understand, and I do know that these students come from different cultural backgrounds. They come from, they have language barriers. Some students don't get read to. Some people don't have conversations with their families all the time. They might just sit in silence and that's it. They go to the other room or whatever. So they don't always get that, those conversations, the language, the academic language that they need. And what else did I say? I was talking about how with the physiological lens, how I do have students that come in all the time that are sleeping, and it's the same students every single time. Or I do have students that come in all the time that are hungry, and instead of asking like, "Why are you always asleep? Why won't you stay up?" Blah blah blah. I do ask my kids, "Hey, did you get enough sleep last night, or were you on your cell phone, or were you playing video games? Do you need a snack?" I do have snacks in my room, and I have given out snacks before. I try not to make it like a habit so that the other kids won't be like, "Why do they get snacks? Can I get snacks too?" So I try not to, but I know that those are some factors that come into it, also. But I won't say that that's the main thing. I think that's kind of like what I got from the question.
Yeah, is that it can be both, but it can't be all kind of thing. Like I
Yeah.
think I took it as like you can include like there are things from sociocultural and like physio that's such a hard word to say physiological like lenses that like do kind of veer their way like on a person struggling, but it can't just like you can't just almost like place blame on it. Like you have to, as
Yeah.
an educator, you have to figure out the way around it. Like just because this child isn't talked to at home or there's only Spanish spoken at home and they only speak English at school, like you can't just like let that be the deficit. Like you've got to figure out how to work around it.
Yes.
When we were talking, because y'all both just talked about like words heard at home, I don't remember, it was in the book, but I don't remember which chapter it was in, but it said for children that have two working parents, they typically hear 11.8 million words at home before entering school, like before kindergarten. Okay. If you have at least one non-working parent, they only hear around 6 million, which I thought that would be opposite, to be honest. Like I thought if you had like a stay-at-home mom, they would hear a lot more than that. And then
Right.
low-income household kids only hear about 3.6 million.
You can like from working in school systems with like a Title I school or like one that like students come from like better off, you can immediately tell a difference in language of like the kids that have like two parents with very like well off jobs versus like a single parent household. And also sometimes of just like I'm at home with big brother who's 16 and can technically or 18 can technically legally watch me. Mom's at work working a double shift kind of thing.
Hmm.
Like it's also of like who's talked to like a kid and who's talked to like a baby. Like I
Mm-hmm.
could even tell this year, like I remember from a very young age, like my parents talked to me like I was a grown up, not like in a sense of like, I don't want to make that
Yeah.
sound
Yeah.
weird, but like they didn't baby talk me at a young age. And so like my oral language developed quicker because they spoke to me in like full sentences and like allowed me time to speak. Whereas like you can tell kids that like aren't given that same opportunity as well because they also don't know how to orally communicate in full sentences as much as like never mind like read and write them.
Mm-hmm.
The so the other part of that question was where do they complicate instructional decision making rather than simplify it?
I
I
think
feel
it
like
like
they. Oh, go
go
ahead.
Megan.
No, you go.
I feel like it's almost like a game of like what's the game where you have to like turn over the like cards to like find the matching pieces. Like sometimes I feel like that's how I feel like trying to figure out what the problem is like I'm like, oh, that's not it. Nope, this one has this, but this one doesn't. Oh, maybe I found, oh, look, they're both matched. Like it's like I feel like to try to get everything aligned, it feels like that. And when you're trying to work through not only like something that's like physiological, but maybe that child also has like so, you know what I'm trying to say,
Yes.
that it like you're almost like trying to figure out where the matching pieces are to get that child like ready to do, like to read, to do the math, to do like you're almost like trying to like pull back the curtains little by little to figure out what the issue is like underneath. Like, is it that they're not eating in the morning or not getting enough sleep? Is it that there's like hunger or trauma or like a language processing thing, like what's going on up here, what's going on in here, and
Mm-hmm.
what's going on right here, and how can we fix it?
Oh, I like that.
Mhm. I think that it complicates instructional decision making rather than simplifying it, because when we are, regardless of what we teach as educators, we've spent a whole semester trying to figure out like how to identify a child's reading gap. Is it phonics? Is it this? You know what I mean? Like, we can instructionally identify, and then we can provide a remedy for. With these two lenses, you're talking about things that are completely outside of our control. There is no, I shouldn't say no, but there's very little proactiveness that we're able to have. We can only be reactive to both of these issues. So, whereas if you know instructionally a child struggles in a content area or just with a concept, you can even like wrap up a lesson. And at the end of the day, you're brainstorming and preparing yourself for materials, for scaffolding, for all of that for the next day to be able to reach them to remedy that gap. With your physiological and sociocultural, you can't there you don't know which child's going to walk in tomorrow and for whatever reason didn't have dinner and breakfast or didn't go to bed, or you never know. So the only thing you can do is react, which doesn't give you the privilege of preparing, and it doesn't, and so you have to, I think that's where to me, when we talk about teaching as a craft, or even as an art form, I think there's so many ways that we refine and we become better at what we do through our instructional practices and through higher degrees and all of that. However, I think a lot of that like craft side of it is that what we always know, like we have to be flexible, we have to be able to pivot, but you have to be able to think quickly on your feet for the human side that is the whole child.
That's why
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm like wish we learned, and I don't know how it was for y'all, like during your bachelor's degree or even for your master's. Like, I only took two psychology classes. One like basic psychology that you had to like probably every person has to take in college, and then like one like early child development class. But like, there's so much more to learn to like reactions and how can I pick this out, because there's stuff that happens in our classrooms every day that doesn't necessarily need the school counselor or the psychologist, but like you have to know what to do in that moment. And
Mhm.
until you have years on your back, like you don't always know the answer. And so it's
Exactly.
like that's
Yeah.
where I wish like we almost had like more training, or at least me myself, like because these lenses do come into play every year, at least they have for me. And sometimes I don't know what to do. And it's like in that moment, I can't knock on my neighbor's door and be like, help.
Yeah.
I think I've asked about more professional development opportunities on how to deal with things like this because I see all types of kids, like literally all types of kids. I remember giving like a quiz out before, and maybe like I think either four or five kids failed, which they normally do decent. I'm not gonna say well, but I will say decent. And like I would sit down and I would talk to them and I would ask them, "Hey, what's going on? Like, why? Like, are you okay?" And like I remember somebody saying, "Well, I didn't feel like doing it." Okay. Somebody said that they had a death in the family and that they were just, highly upset. And I was like, okay, which I know that could be a counselor thing. I can also talk to them too. But some things I'm like, I don't know I honestly don't know what to do. I think there's been multiple cases where I'm like, I honestly don't know what to do. And I would talk to the homeroom teacher. They don't know what to do. Like, because like you said, some things are out of our control.
Mhm.
Or it's like sometimes something like that happens and you talk to the parent and they're like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, okay, cool.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So the communication's not even there. So um the next question, it said to think about a time when instruction was technically sound, but learning still didn't happen, using insights from both modules. Right now, let's just explain what might have been at play beyond the instruction itself. I said that student engagement, and motivation, they play they play a big factor. It talked about in module 6, and then in module in chapter 7, it talked about the emotional aspects, the motivation, and really just all of the internal factors. I like that chapter. I like talking about emotions for some reason, but with me being an interventionist, I have to be able to get my kids engaged. I feel like more so than homeroom, because they're already low, and now we're around a lot of kids who are also a little low, and I don't want them to feed on each other. So I have to try my best to get them engaged. And so some things that I do to get my kids engaged, I said that I do songs for multiplication. I do physical things like bingo. We do cards. We do power pins and interactive cards. We do, of course, computer games like Blookit, Gimkit, all of that stuff. But I just try to give them lots of material so that they're able to choose from different things to be more engaged and more motivated. We do have incentives. Like I go out, I buy snacks for the kids. We have ice cream days, we have cupcake days, donuts days, like anything. And they are motivated, they are engaged, they want to learn, they want to be there. And I'm hoping that I'm answering this right, but um, I think that I try to provide a positive and inviting environment for my kids. And I've learned that when they feel like you really care for them, they start to do things for you. They want to show you their best selves, and just building those relationships with the kids. And I've seen students who, they do really well with me, but then they go in their homeroom and their teacher asks me, "Hey, how did they do on this test?" "Well, they did good with me. How did they do for you?" "Well, they just flunked it." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I guess it's a relationship thing. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know what to tell you." But like I said, I'm hoping that I answered that in the right way. I don't think so, but I hope so.
No, I mean, I
I,
think that you hit on both the emotional and the physical side of it. Did
yeah,
you
and I
want to share?
think I was gonna say I think you answered both questions. I was gonna say like a time when like my instruction was technically sound but learning so didn't happen. Like I shouldn't slump. There's been plenty, but like I think back to like my last school year is like we had like a lot of distractions in our classroom where it's like I'm doing my best to stand up there and teach out of my TE as our district wanted us to read from the Bible for, but then there's Jim, John, Joe, and Jan like who have never been in a classroom setting before, and their mom has literally said on a phone call to our principal, well, they need to be the type of students that's like taking stuff to the office. Like they just can't sit on a rug and learn. So it's like
Mhm.
dealing with that kind of stuff. Like they're never engaged. However, it's also like it's hard when you want to bring more stuff into a lesson, but you're supposed to be reading it from the
Yeah,
Bible.
yeah.
And so it's like beyond the instruction, it's like, are they engaged? How can I make it more engaging? How can I walk the line of am I doing what's allowed in this school district or not, with adding or taking away stuff. But it could also just be that like they don't see anything that's like related to them. Like teaching first
Hmm.
grade for the last little bit, like they have to find some like personal, like some way they can put themselves into it almost, especially with like reading. And so like if it's going over their head because they have zero relation to it or they have zero background knowledge, like it's not going to hit. Something else is like we were talking about the last time is like stress, trauma, sleep, hunger, like all those things can affect a child in a different way. And so I don't know, I feel like making sure like everyone's ready for the day. We last year started, my day started with specials, which it was always like a reset to come back in and then start instruction because
Oh.
it was like going to PE first thing in the morning and like then
Mhm.
you're like arguing because so and so did this and so did that, or like you had to put up your crayons earlier in art class because someone kept breaking them. Like it was always something. And so I think something I learned last year was like make sure everyone's like emotionally and physically like set to learn before I get started and like it goes nowhere, because there's no point in me sitting there teaching for a mini lesson if I only got 10% of the class paying attention.
Writing that down for a second.
Yeah. Mine is, I mean, okay, so with my kids, I have them in that fourth grade time where, they're starting to get really hormonal. And so
Mm.
it's overall just a real joy, especially around Christmas. I don't know what happens and I even tell parents at open house, they're like, I just can't believe we're at fourth grade, and I'm like, yeah, wait till January. You'll see it. Like you'll believe they leave Sweet Angels in December and they come back middle schoolers basically in January, and you're just like, oh my gosh. So I have even had times where I can remember last year. Okay, I can give two examples. One, we were doing multiplication and we were doing 2-digit by 2-digit or 3-digit by 1-digit. But my point is it was not just like them recalling facts to me. Okay. I had a really engaging game that was going on. However, this was also during football season. So a lot of our students are very heavily involved in sports. A lot of our students, I've kind of alluded a lot to like the type of building I'm in. A lot of our students are on, if there is an elite, expensive team that mom and dad have invested in, they're on it. And so therefore, honestly, baseball season is worse, but they'll come in and they will literally have been across the state and not be rolling back in the driveway until 1 or 2 a.m.
Yes.
And they're back at school. So I had this like really great lesson, and it was a game, and everybody's just sitting there and they're like barely even like rolling the dice to be able to like play this multiplication game. And so finally, after like me being like I was trying to be their hype girl, and then finally I was just like, no, you have to do it. And then ultimately I was like, all right, everybody stand up and push your chair in. And we had to do like the brain breaks where like they get up and they start moving, and I had to put a multiplication brain break on and like make them move to where they like, we had blood flowing again. And then on the same token of that though, a lot of my kids come in with, it's not that they have trauma from home, it's that they're navigating the trauma from the drama that they're kind of creating amongst themselves at school. And so I had one time where I had two girls like yelling at each other across the classroom because they didn't know how to conflict resolution over a boy in the class. And so you have to like socially, like you have to like sit there and you have to address it. And the best part of that story is it's actually my best friend's son is who they were fighting over. And I was his teacher last year. And I finally was like, girls, y'all are yelling about a boy that can't spell his middle name. Please stop.
Oh
like,
my
please.
God.
And they just like busted out laughing. I was like, okay, thank you. So
it does get that from me doing intervention. It does get that way with sometimes, especially with boy drama in fourth grade. Fifth grade's not as bad with boy drama. I feel like fourth grade.
Gosh, it's crazy. Yeah, it's so crazy. But I sit there and I look at it and I can think back to the kids at schools I've been at in the past. Yes, I did like you do a lot of Sade with the snacks and like just keeping like the granola bars to meet their physiological needs. Social needs sometimes because they can happen so quickly, like on the fly. I feel like no matter how much you try, those needs can turn your instruction upside down in a heartbeat, and then you're back again, reacting to it.
Well, I almost feel like, you know how like sometimes they talk about like we have to turn it on. Like you like literally being a teacher sometimes feels like a performance because you might have the worst day ever or like you might be dealing with something, but like you've got to just like turn it on and perform for the kids. It's like they don't know how to do that. Like they don't know. Oh, they also don't know how to code switch. So like they're not ready to like handle that, but we almost put them in situations where they have to, where it's like, stop thinking about like this boy that you like because you're 11 and think about this multiplication we're trying to do.
Right.
Where it's like we have to do that sometimes. It's like stop thinking about this thing that's going on at home, put on your big girl panties and like go teach.
Exactly. Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
I tell my kids all the time, like, okay, well, I do tell them when I'm upset or about something, but I tell them I'm here now. So I'm about to do what I came here to do, which is I'm going to teach. So I expect for y'all, when you're upset, I want y'all to do the same thing, which is kind of like what you're talking about with the code switching. I want you to do the same thing. Whatever happened is in the past. We're here now. Let's focus. So I do make sure I try to do that.
But I think too, like if you look at the question part of this, like what factors do we often underestimate because they sit outside of traditional literacy or just instructional, I guess we could say, frameworks. For me, it's like, it's kind of like I was saying, like it's really easy, especially in a school like mine, to assume that all of my students are going to come in Monday through Friday, well rested, clean uniform. They've heard probably all of the 11.8 million words that, but they come from a great home at the end of the day. But you can never fully eliminate the possibility of something happening that takes you outside of that framework or outside of your remedy wheelhouse, if you will, of how to fix something, because we're working with little tiny humans that you just never know what the next move is going to be.
Well, and I feel like I was opposite last year at my school, whereas like I was expecting that every day a different kid was cut just because like that's how it was. Like I think I've told y'all that we swapped classes. So I was looking at like 44, 45 kids a day. And I think out of my 44, 45 kids, maybe 5 had a 2 adult household. So it's like they're not, and even then sometimes it's like it maybe just one, like it's not even their parent, like, so it was definitely like almost going to work every day thinking like, okay, what am I going to have to deal with today?
I think my situation is the same as yours, Morgan. Same as yours. And we just have to deal with what we got.
See, and for me, we talk about it like at staff meetings quite often, honestly. As great as our school is on paper, as great as our test scores are, as great as a teacher gifts are, to be honest, there is a lack of fulfillment in our building because I don't feel like I make a difference in a child's life. I feel like I go and I teach in customer service. I'm making sure that mom and dad stay happy. I'm making sure that their kid that all political things are checked, student of the month, awards at the end of the school year, field day activities, making sure that everybody stays happy. All of that I really, really, we've all talked about it. Like we feel like our school has a very short lifespan because you don't go into your classroom each day feeling like you truly make a difference. And I think that's one of the downfalls to like, I would, of course, you would never want a kid to have any of these hindrances or, as some of it says, like deficits. But when you do see a need and you can help a child, especially, you can meet that need for them and you can support them in a way they've never had before. That fulfillment is not something that you get in our building. And so a lot of people typically stay about 10 years and then they'll go back to another school within the district somewhere else.
Well, it could be on the flip side where there's so many needs that you're trying to get met that you're drowning trying to fix all of them. And then, like,
Yeah.
you burn out because there's, at the end of the day, like, it stops when they leave the door,
Mhm.
like everything that you do. And then it just gets almost like reverted every night. And so that's why I ended up leaving the school I was at last year. It's just because it got to the point that's like, I feel like I couldn't do enough and it was draining me trying to pour in. And like I was getting more out of like the social emotional for my kids than I was the physical learning because it took
Yeah.
figuring them out the social emotional to even get them to the learning point.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, half of my kids in my homeroom last year didn't go to, I mean, I taught first grade, they didn't go to kindergarten. And you're coming in first grade expecting to know all letter names and sounds, like basic addition, like have a common sense of what it looks like to
That's
go to
so
school.
crazy to
And
me.
we're starting from like a kid's never been in a public restroom before. Like, hey, babe, you got to shut the door.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't go in the boys' bathroom, but you've got to make sure you shut the door.
Make sure you
Oh
pull
my
your clothes up
gosh.
before you come out.
That part. Both of them, not just your underwear, both have to be up, sir.
Oh, y'all.
You see a lot. More than
And
you asked
like,
for.
and with mine, I'm like, we're in there and they've got like Sephora set up on the pedestal sink. And I'm like, ladies, I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's like we're at the
oh my
opposite
gosh.
ends of the spectrum.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see how my new school compares because it's like in northeast Paulding, and so it's definitely not anywhere close to the type of school I was at last year, but I don't
No.
think
Are you going to
it's
be first
quite
grade
to where
again?
you're at. Third.
Third.
Oh.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm
It's
a
not
little
that bad.
nervous. I'm a
It's
little
not
My
that bad.
middle kid is going into third grade, and she's the one on our last discussion that like just had to like pop her little head in. And which she is the middle child, and so her socio cultural needs are there because it's apparently very traumatic being the middle child. I don't know.
That's what my brother says too, so you know.
Yeah, and so she is such a loose cannon and doesn't care
Mm-hmm.
that it's always like Russian roulette. Like I feel like the next grade level is always waiting to see like whose class I put her in. And they're like checking their infinite campus, like, did I get her?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm gonna be like that with my son.
Ooh, yeah, she going in third grade though, and she just went and had her hair done this afternoon, like had it cut and everything. And she's like, as she's telling the girl, like, could you put the ponytail higher with the beach waves? And the girl's like, yeah. She's like, yeah, I'll be switching classes. So I hope the teachers are ready to see me. I'm like, oh gosh.
We're still self-contained in third grade. They don't start switching until fourth in my school. So I'm very excited to be back in just one classroom with my kids all day.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
But content's scary for me. Testing's scary, but I'll figure it out.
No.
The testing is not as bad as you think. I don't know why, but I still get nervous. I'm like, you've done this a billion times. I don't know. It's just I feel
I
pressure.
administered the testing. I think having the I think my last school was so like data because we were a failing school that like I have that like, oh my God, since like literally if you aren't moving data, like go ahead and put in your resignation is how they felt there. And meanwhile, my new principal, I went and toured the school with her a couple weeks ago and she was like, so something new coming this year, we're going to have faculty meetings. And I was like, wait, what? And she was like, yeah, we didn't have them before. Like it was just an email and then your team like met with me once a month, but like we didn't have school wide because there's 1,400 kids. So like we have 8 teachers in third grade. Like it's a big school.
Oh wow.
And so she was like, we didn't all fit, but the teachers really like want everyone together at least once a month. So we're going to try faculty meetings either once a month or once every other month. Meanwhile, my last school, it's like faculty meeting every Thursday for at least 2 hours.
Holy cow.
Same.
So
Same.
it'll be different. Okay. Next question.
Okay. So this question, it said Maslow, the triune brain. Is it triune? I think it's triune. Brain
Yeah.
and the socio-cultural theory all suggest limits to what instruction alone can accomplish. Where do you draw the line between what teachers are responsible for addressing and what schools or systems must address? And what are the risks of drawing that line too narrowly or too broadly? Um, I was saying, so like as teachers, there's only so much that we have the control over. I mean, we can control what we do in our classrooms. We can control how we differentiate our instruction and everything. But as far as what doctor a child goes to, or should a child be on medicine, we can only make suggestions. I'll say suggestions. We can kind of slide that in there, but we can't control things like that. That's for the school. That's for the counselors. That's for everyone else. What else? I also said about if we draw the line too narrowly, we might misinterpret a child and state that their behaviors, or just make sure, or not make sure, but we would have the wrong interventions for them. And we don't want to put a child as a label. And then I said, if we draw it too broadly, then we're going to be taking on too much. You talked about having teacher burnout. Then that's where that's coming from. We don't want to take on everything because there's only so much that we can do. And then we have our own lives outside of that. We don't want to overwhelm ourselves. And that's why some teachers, I feel like, end up leaving because they feel overwhelmed from the expectations from the school, from what we put on ourselves, and from what our, personal lives provide for us. So, whew,
I
that's what
think
I was thinking.
sometimes it can be a lot when like I think a lot of parents think that like we have way more control over things than we do. And so it's
Yeah.
like they're not contacting the school about this, that, and the other. Like they come directly to us and then we're the problem if we can't fix it. But at the end of the day, like we're only given so much leniency. So
Hmm.
like my job is to take what I'm given and teach what I can from it. But like so like building those relationships with my kids and like maintaining high expectations for their learning and like giving them the breaks and the tools they need inside my classroom. But then like if the school system is not choosing like quality curriculum for us to use and we don't have like adequate staffing for like class sizes or even like pull out for kids with needs or um parapros or like access to technology. Like there's only so much that like I can do for that. So it's like I have to get better. Like for me to draw the line, this is like my rebuilding of like me as a teacher here. That like I can recognize a need and advocate for it, but I have at some point like I have to realize that like the system like has to provide the things that like I can only do so much. But the risk of drawing the line too broadly is like I feel like it may also allow schools and systems to like shift like structural responsibilities onto like individual teachers. And also like when I think about like social emotional, like I'm not a counselor, social worker, or a doctor, kind of like what you were saying. So like I can only give so much. So yeah. I feel like we're responsible for creating like the best possible learning conditions for our kids, like inside the classroom and like advocating for what they need. But schools and like school systems should have to be able to provide the resources that we need to do that. And if they can't, I then need to like verbally communicate that.
Yes.
I agree with what y'all both said about taking the last question first of the risk of drawing too narrowly or too broadly. I think you said it perfect, Sade. Like that was perfect. The where I kind of draw the line at my responsibility is I look at my students as I am responsible for your learning and for helping you to grow into the best version of you. Now, my students are a little bit older, so I help them navigate the social conflicts and engagements, good or bad, within the classroom and or the class setting, whether it's on the playground, in the hall, whatever. That's I feel like falls into under our umbrella of responsibility of helping them realize who they are, appreciate what they're bringing to the table, but also using it positively as they interact with one another.
Mm-hmm.
But we are not counselors, doctors, social workers. So beyond what is an immediate issue, I just feel like it would be a disservice to the children and to their families for us as classroom teachers to assume a role that we're not qualified for. Therefore, that's where I typically take it and turn it over to admin or whatever. And now, I do have to say though, in that, and what I kind of, if you like, I felt like was like kind of a common thread from all of our comments on this. An important factor, not that this question specifically asked that, is proper communication from the district or admin as to protocol of certain things. I think that that's like we communicate how parents are going to hear about homework, how when the newsletter is going to come, all of that. But I think a lot of those responsibilities that they kind of, like you said, Morgan, assume we are able to help with it. A lot of times schools and districts as a whole never actually fully communicate to parents the services provided by the school counselor. These services, the nurse is not triage, but is, like the services and limitations of the people within the building and who carries what role. I think that that's important, because then it's just people are then educated, and so they know who to talk to, and they know the resources available to them. But if it's not an immediate, I'm helping you grow as a member of society within our school, it's really not something that I feel like I'm qualified to help with.
Yeah, I think my biggest issue last year was like my admin wasn't the best at communication. Like typically if a child gets sent to the principal's office, the principal or vice principal is calling the parent. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that wouldn't happen. And so like things would happen during the school day and the child would go home and tell their parent about it. Well, no one from the school gave me a call. Well, I would assume that since they went to the principal's office and were there for 45 minutes, that the principal called you. Sorry, that was my
Yeah.
assumption. Or they tell me, hey, I'm going to call them, but then they don't. Like, that was my big issue last year. Like, that's once it goes there, it's out of my hands kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. I didn't investigate that. It went straight there. That was past my line of duty. Can't do anything else for you there. So.
Can somebody
I
start the
have
next
school
question?
trauma.
Sorry, I was writing down what you were saying.
No, you're good. I could start
Yeah,
it.
do you want to read it?
Yeah. As you prepare to articulate your own theoretical stance, which ideas from modules 5 and 6 feel non-negotiable and which feel uncomfortable?
I feel like the physiological. I feel like those have to be non-negotiables. Like the kids, they have to be fed. You can't, you know what I mean? They've got to have sleep. They've got to be hydrated to a certain degree. I mean, I feel like the basic physical needs that these students come in with, they have to be met before anything else can take place. So for me, that's just a non-negotiable. Now, the ones that can feel uncomfortable, some of these sociocultural. And I think that those the level of discomfort I foresee will only continue to increase in the field of education throughout the next generations, especially if there is no professional development for us as teachers of how to relate to different cultures, different family structures, etc.
I think that's why I believe like teaching in a community where you are is really important. Like for me, like last year, like I lived 45 minutes from my school district. And so like things were happening in the community that I had like no personal like attachment to. And so I felt kind of almost like detached from it sometimes because I didn't know what was going on. Or like I wasn't like processing this in this way, or like this thing happened, but it had zero effect on me. So like I don't quite understand what the kids are going through kind of situation. Whereas like this year I'm literally teaching I timed it from my driveway to parking lot, car park turned off 7 minutes. So it's like I'll be able to be in there and kind of like not know exactly what's going on with every kid, but like in a general stance, like I kind of have a feel of like what's going on in my community situation. And so like it's easier to navigate those things when you have an idea of like what's going on around you, if that makes sense. But I agree with almost everything you said. Well, not almost, with everything you said, but like building those relationships first and like making sure emotional safety is there is like a zero non-negotiable. Like it has to be there before anything else can happen. Like I think it's why we're preached so much like relationships are important, build those relationships, because at the end of the day they are. Like if you have a kid that doesn't like you, or their parents like talk crap about you at home, like you can tell.
I think that, so I am from the area and from the district. I grew up with the district. So I feel like I can relate to my kids a lot more. And like I didn't come from the best background either. So there's another thing that I can relate to my kids. So yes, again, which I have to write this down, that we all agree that the basic physical needs, they need to be met. But yeah, I think that coming from the same type of background as my kids helps them get a better understanding of me. I get a better understanding of them. And then we're able to, I guess, bond in a sense over that. And maybe I feel like maybe that's why, when we're in the classroom, I'm trying to put this into words. Maybe that's why when we're in the classroom, like, I can't get it out. Hold on, y'all give me a minute. ah, I'm gonna just leave it at bonding. I don't
Well,
want
I
to.
get what you're saying though.
Yeah, and I was gonna say though.
Yeah, because honestly, before I went through my divorce and became a single mom, and I watched my 3 kids now come from a broken home,
Mm-hmm.
my my understanding of what that day-to-day family structure actually looked like was nowhere near, like I thought that I knew, until you walk through it and then you're like, oh my gosh. And so it's so often, I get what you're saying, like I'll have like a parent who's like, oh my gosh, they were at their dad's house last night, they don't have this binder or whatever. And I'm like, no, totally fine, like those, we can work with that, not a big deal. And it builds, like one little piece at a time, builds a trust that I feel like they have with me, because they know that I get it. So I get what you're saying, but I think the kid also feels safe knowing that that basically my background and my kids' background is just like theirs. So when they're in my classroom, I think it's a bit of a comfort level for them.
Yes.
And I
Yeah.
can even say like my last school was I think we're like 94% African American, and then like the other percentage is like Hispanic. Like it's like 0.04% white, and so I was one of the very few white teachers there, and it was a conversation all the time with the kids. Like literally my first year teaching there, when I was an interventionist, one of the first graders called me the white lady with the teeth,
Oh
because
my God.
one of the only other white ladies that taught there didn't have a lot of teeth.
Oh my
So it's
God.
like kids that even in first grade like understand like race and things that happen because they're just exposed to a lot more now than they used to be. And so that was always a struggle of them being like, oh well, like this happened to me because of this, or like their parent being like, well, you don't understand, like you don't get that because you're white. And it's like, well, like it's hard to like even do that like dynamic
Yeah.
sometimes. But I feel like building those relationships
Hmm.
like helps stuff like that.
Yeah.
Make sure that we answered everything. Oh wait, hold on.
Oh, there's a
Oh
second
yeah.
half to that question.
Oh, there is.
What tensions do you feel between your beliefs about effective instruction and the realities of these lenses force you to confront?
that we don't teach in a utopia. You can have, I mean, honestly, you could have the best instructional plan. You can have you can have all the resources at your disposal. There's going to be something.
Yeah.
There's going to be, like, we work with people. There's going to be something, and you're going to have to be able to have that flexibility about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I wrote down, like, I believe students need explicit systematic instruction in foundational skills and things as that. That doesn't make any sense, Morgan. But those skills are taught to real children whose learning is influenced by language, culture, relationships, motivation, emotion, you got it, identity, and access. So it's like, yeah, it's very important for us to, like, explicitly teach, but also, like, keep in mind, like you were saying, we're teaching humans. Like, if we were teaching robots, it would be really easy.
And also, Morgan, going into like a teaching grade, like, I can give the best tier 1 instruction in math all year long. I can scaffold, I can have small groups, I can check every instructional box. I can only teach good from Godot resources. The day of milestones, somebody's going to come in and they're going to be like this through the whole test.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, and now your
watched
data
it.
is gone.
I watched
Mhm.
it. My first year at my last school, I did one of the small groups. I had to administer the test, and one of my principal was like, "Oh, he's a 4 all day, da da da." And I watched him take that test in under 15 minutes, and I was like, "Oh crap!"
We had one 2 years ago from start to finish. It's when I don't teach ELA, but it's when the writing was still year before last, when the writing was on the milestones. Remember, it didn't have it this year. They didn't, in 4th grade, they didn't actually write this year.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay, anyways, it's when it was the writing day. They were supposed to write an essay. One of mine, but from the time I said go until he closed his computer, 4 minutes. I was like, ooh. like, oh no.
Oh my
This
gosh.
is just me. I think they would do better if it wasn't on a computer. That's just me.
Yes. I
Yeah.
think pencil paper.
When
Definitely.
Alabama now doesn't a computer, but when I first taught in Alabama, they did not do it on a computer, and it was still pencil paper. And I am pro pencil paper, but I'm also pro pencil paper everything. So I do love technology, but I don't think they need it that much in the lower grades. But that's just me.
Well,
I'm like, if we're not doing my typing club in technology class, why are we trying to get them to type essays? Sorry.
Yeah. No, but it's a true fact. Like, it's just one comical example, but you have to face the reality that you cannot control all the outliers
Yeah.
that these two issues bring to the table.
Exactly. And to go back to your Morgan, I'm gonna need for you to go back to your thing again. You were talking a little fast for my
I'm
fingers.
sorry I do that.
It's okay. But to go back, Megan, when you talked about we always need to be flexible, and I always have to be flexible because there are many times where I get pulled to go sub. And that
I
right
dealt with
there
that too.
takes away from my instruction. Lord knows I hate it, but I have to be flexible.
You're the extra person.
I am the extra. So
Yep.
and there's lots of times where I'm like, oh my gosh, but my kids, they need that instruction. They really do. They need this. And I mean, it would be weeks I would be taken from my classroom. And so everything that I've planned, I've gotten all my stuff ready, my materials, everything, can't even do it. And now I'm behind. Well, I feel like I'm behind because now they're learning something new and I haven't even went over the old things. So like those are
Yeah.
some.
And then they're asking you, "Hey, Miss Turner, why didn't you pick me up? Hey, Miss Turner, I didn't see you today." Like,
Yes.
you're doing bus duty, and they're
Yes.
like, "Why didn't you come get me?"
Yes. Yes. And I'm like, y'all, I love y'all. I'm so sorry.
I'm like, I'm
Ugh,
subbing in 2nd grade again. They're like, "What's wrong with her? Why is she coming to school?"
exactly. I hate it. It breaks my heart. It really does. But that's gotta be flexible.
Yeah.
Morgan, can you go back to what you were saying? You said it was important to something.
Like when I talked for a long time,
Yes.
I said that I believe that students need, like, systematic instruction, but that those skills are taught to real children whose learning is influenced by language, culture, relationships, motivation, etc. That part?
Okay. Yeah. It was that.
Okay.
Okay. I got it.
Basically, that like we need explicit instruction, but also we're teaching real humans. So we have to, once again, word of the day, be flexible. Okay. That's the last question.
Yay, we did it, you guys.
We did it.
Project,
Okay.
final exam, we're done.
Yes. And I will try my best to put my information in tonight and tomorrow evening. It will be done by Thursday. Just
Can
know
y'all
that by
just
Thursday.
take a gander at the 3 slides that I did? I'm going to expand on the instructional points per subject about like the cross content areas at like as I speak. But also if you'll just make sure that like I'm on the right track with like where y'all are taking it, if you don't
Okay.
mind.
Yeah, no,
And then
I'll get
if you'll just shoot me a quick text, because if so, tonight I'm going to figure out how to record my slides so that I can focus on the other thing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're good.
I
Okay.
gotcha.
Well, thank y'all.
It's been real.
Yes, it has. Bye,
Can't
y'all.
say it's been fun.
Bye.
Bye.